Good afternoon. Good evening, folks. I felt like when I left the level, it was dark, so it's afternoon. Good evening. Welcome to our second community forum. I'm glad we have some more folks here. This is a super exciting time, at least for us, and we hope for you, as community members, as parents, as we have school committee members here, our building committee members, our building committee are here to talk a little bit about where we're going, what's been done, kind of get an outline of what we had to do. As part of that, that's just Whitman Middle School.
I got to shout that.
So we're going to present a few things today. Just to know that the building committee and the school committee have not made decisions yet. That'll be upcoming in the next couple of months about what we're putting out there for the town. And there's a couple of things that we're going to talk about today. A 5 through 8 configuration, 6 through 8 configuration, whether we want a cafetorium, an auditorium, a gymatorium, an whatever-torium. But those are things that are going to come up and we're vetting, and we want community involvement, some feedback. Hopefully tonight we can answer some questions. But I know at last meeting, folks were saying, well, what's being decided? And I can just tell you, we haven't made any decisions yet. Those are upcoming. And the two big ones, which I just spoke about, are the 5 through 8 versus 6 through 8, and the cafetorium versus auditorium, because those are issues of cost. We're not going to dive too deep into cost yet, because I think we're talking about our education plan and what George, myself, Brandon, and our team have kind of put together, that what we see for the students of Whitman, in particular, for the next 50 years now. So this is the hard part, being superintendent. This building was built in 72, I was 4, and now we're projecting a building out for the next 50, because that's what MSBA expects from the building, 50 years. So we have to, as a community, say to us as a committee, the school committee and building committee, what you see for us and for your community in the next 50 years. And there's been a lot of changes in education and in facilities over that time. Let me introduce some of the folks here. John Bates is our OPM, he was here before. Julie Regilli is one of the architects from AI3. And Troy Randall is another architect from AI3. And I forgot your name.
Ashley Collier from Tourist Institute of Architects.
And I have some building committee members here, so just want to raise your hand. These are our building committee members that serve on our building committee, and school committee members that are here as well, just so that they're here and you can see. So this is a team approach. Brandon Frost is our middle school principal, and Crystal Regan, right? Yeah, Crystal Regan is another person that helped put together our ed plan. And then George Farrell, who spent more time than anybody in this building and has the historic history of it, and also that middle school experience with the chat tonight. So with that, I'm going to kick it off to Troy and start us out.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Thank you guys for taking the time tonight to join us, the second community forum. If you recall from the first community forum, or maybe you were here, maybe you saw the video, we spoke about the existing conditions. All of our engineers were on site, evaluated the site, evaluated the building, and provided a detailed description of the existing conditions. We also touched upon the educational visioning process, and as well we'll get into a little bit more tonight with the educational programming process. Tonight's intention is to go through, touch on the educational programming, get into more detail about the various options that we looked at during the first phase of the feasibility study. Then we'll talk about grade level configuration, and then auditorium, cafetorium, etc. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to John and go through the process.
Just a very high-level overview of the project. So we're doing this in partnership with the Massachusetts School Building Authority. They're a grant funding organization that helps towns and districts find basically responsible but educationally sound building solutions for towns and districts. And part of what makes it so successful is very prescriptive and very well outlined. So it starts with identifying the issues, submitting a statement of interest done by the district, and then the MSBA invites the district into the eligibility phase. That was done in this case in 2020. Then from the project team, that would be the OPM, in this case, Colliers. That would be forming the project team, in this case that's Colliers or the OPM, and then AI3 is the architect, and then the feasibility study really kicks off and that's the phase that we're in right now. So we just submitted the PDP, which is a documentation report to the MSBA. Once that's been done and reviewed, then we would continue on into the first schematic phase. Then the schematic design phase will kick off in next year. And then funding the project is what we would anticipate going to the town for debt exclusion about this time next year, a special town meeting to vote to approve the project. But pending approval, then we would move into what's called the detailed design phase in 2023, that would stretch in 2024, and then go into construction. And then in 2027, we're estimating completing the project. So again, it takes the better part of a decade for a project like this to come to fruition. So with that, I'll turn it over to Julie.
So then just looking at some of those aspects of the MSBA process, where we are now, where we're going. To complete the MSBA process, it really is a series of modules and steps. And we recently entered step 2, which is the preferred schematic report. And that means that at this point in time, we're analyzing some addition renovation options, new construction options, and we'll share some of those later in the presentation. But that's with the ultimate goal of narrowing those options down to a preferred option by March. We'll then take that option through the summer. As John mentioned, we'll work on schematic designs. We're looking into more details, making that more of a building. And then in the fall, November 2023, that's really when the community has the biggest impact. And that will be that debt exclusion vote and the town meeting. And so if Whitman decides to approve the project and move it forward, as you mentioned, then we'll have detailed design and construction documents developed, and we'll be able to then construct that building starting in February of 2025. I mentioned we recently went into step 2. That's because step 1 was this PDP submission. So we submitted our first report to the MSBA. As Troy mentioned initially, that's really a lot of the existing conditions of this building, the site. Using our architectural expertise and our engineers, we developed a series of assessments. We also put together a lot of investigations, so geotechnical and traffic studies and all of that sort of black and white information that's in the hands of the MSBA, over 1,200 pages, and we're just waiting for them to sort of give us some comments or any requested additional information at this point. What's also included in this PDP submission is the district's educational program, and the superintendent will go through highlights of what's involved in that program so far.
I don't think I can like, I'll try to keep my principal's voice. So, just to clarify, we did make one decision, Sheriff Small, let me know. We talked about 2-story, 1-story, or 3-story building. So the schematic design that we are supporting is a 3-level building. It's one of the cheapest out there. We get the most bang for our buck. So looking at that efficiently and economically, that's one of the decisions that we're going to be making. So, and this PowerPoint will be on our school website tomorrow. So if you want to go into detail with it, review it, you can. So the Ed Plan programming, this is what we did. A lot of work went into it, and it's our vision for the middle school students of Whitman. Like I said, from now for the next 50 years. So we kind of put together a program that'll work for 5 through 8 and for 6 through 8. We didn't really focus in on, the auditorium versus cafeteria. This was the end piece of it. So a couple of highlights around this is, a successful middle school will support interdisciplinary, authentic hands-on project-based learning. That's what we want to do. We want to provide a facility that accommodates flexibility and adaptability for all of our students, create an environment for social emotional learning. You're going to see in the schematics where we have little pieces that will really give kids an opportunity to do these types of things. High collaboration areas for teachers. If you walk through this building, there's not a lot of space for collaboration. Connect technology and with space and pedagogy to foster innovation. That's the schematic of this new building that we're looking at, or renovation or addition. I'm going to say building a lot because that's the hope that I can get there. Create a safe and secure environment that's inclusive for all of our kids. Strong connections to the outdoors. This is an area that we can use the outdoors, and the architects have already put together some drafts of how we can use it for the best for kids. Promote school culture. create branding for our school and school community, and that's you folks as well, because I think we want this school to be not only for the students of Whitman Middle, but for the community. I feel as an outsider coming in, there's no community area outside of Town Hall for your community to have gatherings. That would be something we're looking for, and enhancing support, strengthening the connections and partnerships for Whitman Middle School. So that's part of how we put together that educational plan. And again, whatever we wrote in that will work for a 5 through 8 and for a 6 through 8. That was the challenge we had, and I think we worked really well.
What we're going to do now is go through the design team, the building committee, evaluated 13 different options. We're going to give you a snapshot of each of the options. We're going to go through the slides with Julie and myself, and also Ashley. We're going to continue through and rotate through the slides, give you a snapshot. Like you said, we would be here for hours if we went through the detail of each of these. First, though, we want to give you an idea. Everybody has probably seen, heard, experienced the extreme volatility in the construction market, construction costs, and material costs, delays in product, et cetera, et cetera. That is really happening. This analysis here shows the last 10 years. This is on the Massachusetts School Building Authority website. They've been tracking school construction costs for the last 10 years. You can see where it starts out in 2014 and then continues and projects out to 2024. And so this area here is where we are, and this is actually where we are right now. And you can see the increase in the severe spike in cost. And there's an anticipation of it plateauing slightly. However, it's still going to rise. Historically, it has always increased. And so as we look at 2024, approximately 2025, as the project goes out to bid, the construction costs, these are some of your peer projects that the MSBA pipeline is in the MSBA pipeline. The average cost is about $650 to $675 if you escalate that up to 2025. $650 to $675 a square foot for construction costs. And so our cost estimators, the independent cost estimators that are hired by us, as well as Collier's, the OPM, we're going to be looking at the construction costs for a proposed project as we move forward. They've looked at each of the options and provided an approximate cost based on the data that they have currently, what is projected in the future, and what's happening in the school market, but also other markets. The options that you'll see, the first option is a base repair. What happens in this building if it just is upgraded to meet code? Electrical code, mechanical code, and any structural code, building code. No educational improvements, just to meet code. That's the first option. The second category is addition renovations. 4 separate options for each of those. A 6-8, no auditorium. 5-8, no auditorium. 6-8 with an auditorium, and then 6-8 without an auditorium. Or sorry, 5-8 without an auditorium. Then new construction, 4 options likewise. 6-8 with and without an auditorium, and 5-8 with and without an auditorium. And so there's 4 others. As Jeff was talking about, we looked at 3-story schemes. So 2-story versus 3-story new construction. What are the cost savings there for efficiency of building plan, footprint, exterior envelope, and there is a cost savings there. So the building committee voted to proceed looking at the new construction options and 1 3-story, and then 1 addition renovation option. It's a lot of information here, trying to distill that into 1 slide. As I mentioned, these are the 13 options. So you have the 4 base new construction options, the 4 3-story options, 4 addition renovations, and then the base repair. And you can see the difference in a few things. One is the duration, which you can see a 6-8 option, no auditorium for new construction is about 28 months. And then a 5-8 addition renovation with an auditorium is about 48 months. So you can see there's a pretty extreme difference in overall duration based on what the project entails. The square footages. Now the square footages based on 6-8 middle school and a 5-8 middle school, same program, but they're going to have different square footages based on new construction and addition renovation. Renovating this building is going to be less efficient because you're dealing with an existing structure. So inherently with the same program, it's going to be larger because of the inefficiencies of the existing building and the square footages associated with it. That also factors into the cost. The other thing that factors into cost is the addition renovation is an occupied phase construction. That means that the building is occupied when construction is going on. It also means that you can't only take bite-sized pieces of the existing building to renovate because you have to move students and teachers around in order to make sure you get through the building. And ultimately, it lasts a lot longer than the new construction, where we'll talk about this in a second with the phases. But we're looking at constructing a new building behind the existing building and then tearing down the existing building and completing the site. So you can see the cost differences here from $96,375,000 total project cost for a 6-8 option with no auditorium. For a 3-story building, it's about $92,875,000. The cost of construction related to that with 5-8 option with an auditorium, 3 stories, about $109 million. And then as you move through the addition renovation, you can see it starts with $109 million, almost $110 million for the 6-8 option with no auditorium, up to about $130 million for the 5-8 option with an auditorium. Now, as Jeff mentioned, the building committee decided to and voted on us and the design team, professional team, looking at all of the options essentially, 6-8 with and without an auditorium, 5-8 with and without an auditorium, but a 3-story scheme because of the efficiencies of the building footprint, exterior envelope, and reduction in cost, as well as looking at the 5-8 option with an auditorium as the ad reno project. Quickly, as I mentioned, code required upgrades does not account for all of the educational space deficiencies in this building that exists. It's only code repair, code upgrades. It had the poor existing organization, does not resolve that. Existing stormwater drainage issues in the back doesn't resolve that. It doesn't resolve a lot of items that aren't code required or code related. In this case, that's one of the reasons why the building committee did not include this as part of the next phase. We did not vote to continue this. As I mentioned, it's about $56.7 million approximately just for the code required upgrades, and that is 100%, nearly 100% district dollars related to that. Now we'll go through each of the options.
Thank you so much. My name is Ashley Collian. I'm the landscape architect, and our role in this beginning part of the project is we really take all of these building options and we start to test the site. So we take the environmental constraints, we overlay it with the built constraints. So for instance, we know you have wetlands to the east and west. We know you have the building located in the center of the site, and then you have all these fields. So we start to test where this new building could be potentially located and how it would be applied. So certainly there's tons of different options, but for consistency's sake, we're taking many of the program elements you have now. Parking, for instance, buses, we know that you have 9 buses, and we're replicating that on each site. We're also either replicating or keeping in place all fields. So in this first option, you'll notice all fields are staying in the same place as they are today. Sorry, Julie, I don't want to trip you. And then we're looking specifically at how we can create improved parent and bus drop-offs, how can we create that circulation separate to create the safest environment possible, and create great access to some of these outdoor educational spaces, outdoor classrooms located in the back, hardcore play like some of your basketball courts, and then great connectivity to the fields.
So in all of these options we're showing, the gray is the existing building, and then the red would signify an addition. And for this option 2A, which is just 6 through 8, same configuration as we have currently, without an auditorium, the approach here would be to include one addition that's sort of perpendicular to the existing academic wing and connects this corridor along the main axis. And then we'd also have to employ modular classrooms to execute this option. As Troy mentioned, any of the Averano options might have they would have a phased occupied construction aspect to them. So school is occurring while construction is happening, and to ensure that students aren't losing out on any of their actual classrooms, we include the modular classrooms. That being said, the existing classrooms here are all undersized, so we would have to then, after the addition, go back and renovate all of the existing classrooms to increase the size to make them up to the standard of the MSBA. With that, we would then sort of move from that side of the building towards this way, hitting all of the major spaces, the cafeteria included, media center, gymnasium, which would ultimately take about 42 months.
And the cost, as I mentioned, 42 months. The 6A no auditorium, it's about 100,000 square feet of renovated space, about 26,000 square feet of new construction space, with a total approximate construction cost of about $110 million.
So option 3A of renovation, 6 through 8, 2-story with an auditorium. Very similar to the option you saw before this, but you'll know you do have your separate drop-off areas, some really great circulation coming in and around the buses, cars in the front. Replicating all the fields are remaining exactly in place, but some really great improvements in terms of outdoor educational spaces, outdoor dining, and outdoor classrooms closely located to the school.
And with this option, the first 14 months would be the same as option 2A, and the difference being that here we're adding an auditorium, and that does require a level of demolition in order to fit that into the area of the site and make it make sense within the building. So the red leg that's kicking out, that would demolish sort of this corner of the building, and we propose a new addition of an auditorium in that area. With the completion of that, we can sort of move a lot of these arts programs over to that side of the building. The cafeteria could enlarge at that point. It wouldn't be the stage anymore. And then we would also sort of modify the front of the building now that we have that sort of change in shape with the corner of the building over there. And so we would end up with a different sort of facelift to this building as well. With the 2A and 3A options, the site is sort of unimpacted as much because given the existing building, we can't pick it up and move it, so the site would sort of remain as is around it with the modifications that Ash is proposing.
With the duration, 44 months, and the complexity, about $117 million, $117.6 million for the 6A option with an auditorium. And this will catch up in just a second. Okay.
So this is option 6A, Averano, 5 through 8, no auditorium. So subtle differences again, 150 parking spaces, you have stacking for all your buses, car queues that are matching to similar to what you have. But you'll notice some of the queuing for buses, parents located around the front, wrapping the buses around the back, which could be a good thing. You can use that as hardcore play, and it gives you a little bit more queuing and keeps it away from the parent drop-off, and a little bit of a different configuration than you saw before. But then again, you have new parking areas located to the front, and then these great outdoor classroom spaces.
The difference in the the addition for this option would be because we're moving 5th grade up to the middle school, now that added academic wing would have to sort of double in size. And so in this option, we're proposing that we add a newly constructed academic wing parallel to the existing academic wing that's sort of taking on this shape to create some outdoor spaces in between the wings. But with that addition, in this option, we actually wouldn't need any modular classrooms. So it's sort of a benefit to this ad reno scheme, and that's because since 5th grade wouldn't move until the building was complete, it sort of leaves that new wing available to as swing space for the students who are currently here to move over while we renovate that existing academic wing, and then again sort of move from that side of the building towards this end of the building. Total duration 46 months.
And a total cost of about $121.5 million.
Option 7A at Garnell 5 through 8 with auditorium. Again, this is a very similar option, so I won't elaborate too much on what you just saw before, but a little bit less space in terms of overall site. The building's a little bit tighter to your sight lines, a little bit less circulation in terms of pedestrian circulation, outdoor space located to the back. But still great connectivity, really clean drop-off areas, safer overall, I think, circulation around the site.
We do the same proposed academic wing addition on this option, and then sort of combining option 3A, we would propose an auditorium in the same location. Revitalizes the front approach of the building a little bit, and also provides that performance space that's required. Because we're moving grade 5 here, this space, the cafeteria, we need to enlarge just to accommodate the student enrollment. And so by adding the auditorium, again, we can move a lot of those art spaces over and sort of take over the back of this building for the cafeteria, for example.
Total construction costs of this, as I mentioned, the largest of all of them is about $130 million for the 5/8 option with the auditorium. Now we'll get into the new construction options.
So this is option 4A, new construction, 6 through 8, no auditorium. And this is, I think, where stuff really starts to get interesting in terms of the site. You can start to see a little bit more variation. So certainly now you have the existing building located centrally into the site. So now you're taking the new building, locating it back towards the rear. So now we get really much more increased queuing spaces. You can almost double your car queue. Why that would be important is you're keeping all your cars off your street. And everything's staying internal, more internal circulation to the site. And then I think some of the really beautiful subtle differences are we're relocating some of those fields. So now as opposed to driving in and entering right into parking, you have this really pastoral entrance where your entry approach is framed by all these fields on both sides, which is really beautiful, especially as a child or any visitor to that school. You have fantastic entry plazas, both parents' buses dropping off at the same spot. Really great elongated car queue here. Nice bus drop off right there. And then this beautiful courtyard space located to the back. Potentials for outdoor dining and huge amounts of outdoor classroom and walking class space.
And because we're able to construct an entirely new building behind the existing, there would be no phased occupied construction. So the education that happens in here would not be impacted or disrupted by construction of the new building. It would, of course, put that soccer field sort of out of use for the temporary duration of construction, but as compared to the addition renovation, this would only be 28 months. The previous one was 48 months.
Construction costs for 6/8 option with no auditorium is about $96.3 million overall. One thing I would just say, Ashley, if you don't mind, with any of these new construction options, with the movement of the building back further into the site, it really allows for a nice open campus and the visibility across the campus. In lieu of the building being right in the middle of the campus, segregating the fields throughout, it really has a nice placement in the back of the site, connecting to the outdoor classrooms, connecting to the field, organizing the parking as well as the traffic overall.
Yeah, that is absolutely true, and especially when you start to think about it in terms of the community uses, some of those fields being all located in that same central location towards the front of the site, and then in the school located to the back. You can also note here, we're making some really just small gestures at this point, but perhaps there's outdoor dining that's just perfectly overlooking all these fields and green spaces. So there's just some really nice opportunities there. And we haven't touched on it, but in all of these designs, we have in the back of our mind, how can we integrate some of this environmental learning, sustainable learning, and creating some of these spaces. So you'll note here, you have some amazing environmental opportunities in terms of using your wetlands for outdoor classrooms. There's also a brook that has been, it's underground currently. There's potential to potentially daylight that and use that for some of your outdoor living spaces too.
So this option is with an auditorium, still 6 through 8 grade levels, and I guess just wanted to point out here that the duration would be the same as the previous, so 28 months, and even with that auditorium, the difference being we're not dealing with any demolition and trying to sort of continue to shore up this building while we add on any sort of new form, so another benefit of new construction.
And keep in mind, we talked about in the initial slides that all of these new construction options are the three-story options, so everything related to it.
Like the three-story, but the pricing is the three-story that you have highlighted, correct?
The pricing would be the first slide that we're talking about that has all of the three-story estimates on it.
Okay, so a 6 through 8 with auditorium is not 100.875 million.
It's about $3.5 to $4 million less on each of the schemes across the board.
And
Yes,
so people can understand.
that's right.
I don't know why we're showing these.
We're showing these because these were the slides that we showed the building committee, so we wanted to be consistent on each of these two-story schemes. But yes, the three-story scheme that we're talking about on the first slide is correct. Those are the exact numbers. And we can go back to that slide in just a moment if you like.
I just think, that's what we're going forward with.
Sure.
Confuse people.
Yeah, we're not here to confuse people.
It's definitely a lot of options, and so it's good that we're at the point now where we have sort of made some, the building committee has at least provided some direction so far.
So option 5B, again, similar circulation, great entry drive where you have this new driveway framed by all these fields. You'll notice the way we've started to locate parking. It's really proximal to those fields too, so fantastic for the school, but also great for community use on off hours. And then we're also able to rotate one of those soccer fields. So if you did potentially want to expand some of those, one of the larger fields, that opportunity might be there as well. So you could potentially improve some of the field space you have existing. And again, great green space, great circulation. And what we really love is this connectivity to some of these wetland classrooms and then potential outdoor learning opportunities, great pedestrian time, spine coming down, and walking paths around the school.
With any of these new construction opportunities, will that back road be used moving forward, or will that be blocked off?
Which back road?
There's a second back road that right there.
This will be maintained as an emergency egress.
Emergency use.
Yes, similar to what you see today.
The fields, would they be stay grass or would we choose to do artificial?
Hasn't been determined yet.
And then we just want to point out that for this is a 3-story option, and again, the duration would not change. Same size building, despite being 3 stories instead of 2, it would still be 20 units.
And we'll go back to the slide for the 3-story estimate so we don't confuse anybody.
Option 8A, new construction, 5 through 8, no auditorium, 2-story. Again, really similar in terms of your new circulation, your new field layout, parking located really close to those fields, great for community use, but also really great because central spines, and then you have the buses and cars dropping off at the same entry plaza into the school, which is really wonderful. And then towards the left, you have these great courtyard spaces and hardcore play that you can incorporate as well.
The following options are for 5 through 8 configuration, so the building grows a little bit, and the only change would be that because of that, our estimated duration is 32 months here, so bigger building, a little bit more time required to build it.
Again, we'll go back.
So option 9A, new construction, 5 through 8, 2-story, again, very similar circulation that you saw in the last one, so we won't elaborate too much. But some of this area is fantastic. This courtyard space here in the back has just fantastic opportunities for this outdoor connectivity, visual, but also an outdoor learning space. Really great green space off the sides and wings of the school. And then great service. Now, the service currently is located very close to the outdoor play areas. Any way we can take that and separate it so that you don't have students playing around service is fantastic.
Again, another new construction option, so very easily just constructing it behind the existing, no disruption, and an estimated duration of 32 months.
This is option 9B, new construction, 5 through 8 option, and 3 stories. So the biggest change you'll see here is that you have more available exterior space because the building footprint has shrunk. So you'll see you just have a lot more breathing room and outdoor opportunities right around the school. So a little bit more of a space between the left and buffer to the rear and the side.
And bigger building here too, but just because it's going up extra story instead of 2 stories, same duration, doesn't matter, 32 months.
Okay, so. Just to make sure that we have not 3-story, all 3-story, 6 through 8 option, no auditorium, 92.875 million. 6 through 8 option with an auditorium, 96.875 million. 5 through 8 option, no auditorium, 3-story, 105.25 million. 5 through 8 option with an auditorium, 3-story, 109 million, 109.25 million. Reimbursement? Yeah. The reimbursement on each of these is approximate, and I just want a huge caveat here because we're very, very early in the process. And at this point, it's basically throwing a dart at the wall. But we can use historical data to try and help frame what that range might be based on past experience with middle schools and the MSBA reimbursement and your baseline. So in the 6 through 8 option with no auditorium, it's about, the town share would be about $47 to $53 million. In the 6 through 8 with an auditorium option, it'd be about $49.3 to $55.3 million. With a 5 through 8 option without an auditorium, it's about $54 million to $60 million, the township. And then with a 5-8 option with an auditorium, $56 to $62 million. Now, that's going to fluctuate without any stretch of the imagination. As we get further in the process, and an actual one of these is selected, then the professional team, Colliers, AI3 will go through, work with the MSBA, work with the building committee, and then the project and the eligible costs, ineligible costs, the town share will be more refined and more targeted. But at this point, that gives an approximate range of what the comparative cost would be for the project, for each option as compared to each other.
Just quickly, acknowledging that this is, the cost of an auditorium is
It's about $3 to $4 million because it's not reimbursed.
but it's approximately
Yeah, so so each of these, it's broken down based on the estimator's information. It's about $3 to $4 million in township. There may be subtle differences in each of these that equate for, $500,000, $1 million. It's really big picture. So that's just try. Sorry. Okay. All right.
Just to clarify, so the one constant that we do know is that the auditorium is not reimbursed.
That's right.
And that's estimated to be $3.5 to $4 million.
Yeah, between $3 and $4 million.
So just to clarify, the rest of that money is coming from the state?
The rest of them, meaning between the cost of the total project cost and the town share?
Yeah, the differential is that we're back into.
Correct, the state.
Now, you mentioned that it's almost like a volunteer at Dartpool. Is that because we're not 100% sure on the actual estimated cost, or are there certain variations that affect how much the state will pay for staff?
Yeah, it's because we don't know enough about the details of the project yet, and we haven't worked through, there's a document called the 3011 that the MSBA has developed over the last 15 years that is helpful in identifying what is eligible and not eligible. And so we haven't started at this point in the process. To go through that would be a good step.
I think.
Yes.
So, since you said that the auditorium is reimbursable, is the gym athletic field reimbursable?
The gymnasium, so,
I'm just confused.
sure. And this is a confusing topic because the MSBA has baseline reimbursement percentages. Also, within that document, there are calculations that are made that I can't actually say yes, no, as far as the, so the auditorium is categorically ineligible in middle school.
Right,
So
and
we-
I think are the athletic fields and gym reimbursable?
So the gymnasium is reimbursable,
Okay.
however, at some point in its size and in the space summary, if it gets too large, let's say the district decides to build 3 gymnasiums, 3 full-size courts, then the MSBA has a cutoff point within middle school, and in fact, high school as well. With the playfields, there is, it is eligible for reimbursement. However, there's an 8% cap on site costs relative to the building construction. So that's why it gets to a point where you can't, it's not a yes or no answer.
As a parent of some children who have these yards, perhaps pitching it to the town as these students are we're getting reimbursement for the academic field for them, so perhaps we should do that in the county, cost us a little higher for having one for them, say.
And I'll build on what she's saying right there, only because I noticed there was a little bit of a focus on the environmental learning and the aesthetics. And so I'm just wondering, in today's day and age where the MSBA is involved, if we uncovered that brook and we created environmental learning for the children, would it maybe be a higher reimbursement rate if we incorporated that into the
Historically, that's not the case. It's a straight line, or it's a percentage of the building construction.
So would we just include that for our own? There would be no extra incentive other than, just for a pretty field or a pretty entrance. There's no extra incentive for that, just other than beautification of the That's I think you already answered it, historically.
Yeah, and so here's the thought process of the MSBA. Their goal is to try to benefit as many students across the Commonwealth. And so if there's an urban site that has 4 acres of land versus a suburban site that has 30 acres of land, with the site cost, they cap the cost in order to provide parity between projects from a site development standpoint. So if the urban site can't have development, the costs are going to be lower because they don't have 30 acres to develop fields and things like that. And so they're trying to provide parity amongst the districts and spread the wealth amongst the community.
So I think it's fair to say that where the MSBA is concerned, this community has no way to move the dial. The MSBA has their blueprint and way to do things, and we are, pretty fortunate to be able to be in this process where we're going to get a large reimbursement or, a large contribution to this really, really important project. I think it's really exciting when we start talking about outdoor learning, flexible project-based learning space. I think it's really exciting when we start talking about having a space for the Whitman community to gather beyond just the school children. And I have 2 questions for the community. One is, as a school district, why would we even consider a 6 to 8 model? Because we have a district, and we have a middle school already in our district that is 5 to 8, where every 5th grader in that building is receiving 30 minutes more instructional time every school day than the children in Whitman. So I think it's really important for us to think about ourselves, yes, as a town that needs to pass some measure at a town meeting where the taxpayers have to say, yes, we support the students in this town having appropriate learning space, but we're also a district, and we need to consider the equity between the children in Whitman and the children in Hanson. And then as a community, I really want to ask why we would ever possibly consider an ABRAM for this project. Anybody here has not been in our gymnasium, please walk over there on the way out. I know we have to just include it in the schematics, but I also know that there are people who don't have children in the school systems who are going to say, I would really prefer to save the money and just renovate the building.
More expensive.
So,
Yes.
can I answer that? So, at our last building trip, I'm John Galvin, I'm on the building city. If you notice, we haven't picked one reno option. You picked the most expensive one.
Thanks.
We realized that it's really not an option. So if we had to pick one, it's $130 million.
Yeah, I did notice that, and I really liked noticing that. I also really don't like noticing, after moving into town 4 years ago, walking in the gymnasium for the first time and feeling like, this is a health hazard. To me, coming to watch a game that's 45 minutes long, but we have gym teachers who are spending their entire day in that, mold-ridden area, and I don't care how much you try to mitigate mold, it's a losing battle. So I'm really just hopeful that everyone is going to support construction. I think that's all I have for now.
To jump on the issue back when yes, the kids are getting very more into instructional time. They're also getting access to programs that we can't provide here. They're putting on performing art programs, putting on plays here in the middle, putting on concerts here in the middle. Duval kids go over to Hanson Middle to do winter concerts. It's an issue with equity. I know it's not reimbursable, but if Hanson's got it, by the laws of our district or the real agreement, we should be able to provide those same programs. George, you can say, can you provide those programs in California?
I'm coming up soon.
That was a really great segue into our next topic on grade level configuration. I think we we don't even need to speak, it sounds like we have people who could talk for us.
So, so, again, my name is George Farrow. I was the principal here for 15 years. Actually, I think Derek Arrington was our school resource officer in Hanson, was actually a student when I started here. So, I was once young with no gray, and I'm going to attribute that maybe to the mold. That's why I'm gray. But with this grade configuration, I've had the ability in my life to teach in a 7-8 middle school. I've had the ability in my life to be a 5 to 8 middle school assistant principal, and then a 6 to 8 principal here for 15 years. So I've seen every configuration. When we talk about the educational plan, and I should further say that both Jeff and Brandon come from a 7 to 12 school configuration. So I don't know if you're going to find another collection of people. We might not be the brightest folks, but I don't know if you're going to find another collection of people who experience all the different levels of what education can be. Currently in Whitman, with the passing of full day K, you go for 6 years at both Conley and Newell. Full day K, 1 to 5. You then go to 3. You then go to 4 at the high school. But if you look research-based on what's best for students at the middle level, from a perspective of 10 to 14 years old, there's no greater time of change in their life from 10 to 14 years old. It's when they change, it's when they're your little kids that love you, and they want everybody at the birthday party, to somewhere around spring of 8th grade, where they pretty much hate all of you. They've now settled on their 8 friends, but they have to hate them. You know, 6th grade is the pivotal one, because you still want them to be like everybody, and they no longer do. But there's not going to be 4 years of my child to my young adult that you're going to have, and that's what a 5 to 8 middle school does. And I will agree completely. If I put on my assistant superintendent hat, then yes, from a district standpoint, we should be moving forward together for similar like experiences. However, there is cost implications for that, but when you look at what's best for students in a grade 5 to 8 configuration, you look at every phase of their life. There's more opportunities for them to express themselves in and out of structured classroom activity. You have more after-school activity, you have more in-school activity, you have the freedom of movement. So I don't have to stay with one teacher all day. If Marshall Tina is my teacher, and for some reason we don't hit it off, I don't have to stay with him. 8:30 to 9:30, 9:30 to 10:30, 10:30 to 11:30. And that's where things pop up. Because education should not be a compliance-driven issue. It should be an issue on what are we doing that's best for kids. At the middle school level, you might have to tell your child, hey, you have to see him for an hour a day. However, you have now 7 other teachers throughout the course of your week, throughout the course of your cycle. So that's what's important about elementary, middle school. Downside is that you say, well, I'm giving up my baby. My baby's only this age. He's going to hear all that bad stuff. I got to be honest with you. If your kid's got a cell phone, or if you know somebody that has a cell phone, they already know that there's bad stuff out there. We're just saying, from an educational standpoint, K to 4, then 5 to 8 is better for the development of the child as a whole. Because we get to know him through the whole volatile stage. And then we get to see him leave, and if the middle school has done their job, then they have a responsible young adult who can think for themselves, hopefully learn some academics along the way, but then be able to tackle the world and have some self-identity. So when you put all that together, missing that grade 5 is not a research-based, educationally successful piece, if you can do it. Now, I understand not a lot of people have the ability to do it, because it's based on money, it's based on population, it's based on if schools have size. But if we have the ability to do it, I think that you hire Jeff, you hire all of these people here, they all work for you, your tax dollars pay for it, by the way, my tax dollars pay for it, because I live on 320 Harvard. I think it's an opportunity where we can say, maybe we should. Because Jeff said he was 4 when the school was built, I was only 2. However, 50 years ago, this was a good deal. This was what we wanted for our students. But is that what we need to do as adults now in school, in the school setting for the next 50 years? So from an educational standpoint, grade 5 to 8 offers more for students, it offers more help from a social emotional standpoint, and it offers more academics. If I can touch upon what was stated about we have beautiful fields and what about the auditorium, the MSBA does provide reimbursement for a cafeteria or a gymatorium. But if I can go a little bit further, I think it's also an option that has to be discussed. There is a financial implication to that. I'm going to be in the same voting booth as all of you when this comes. So will all my children by that time in my life. So we have to understand that. But if you look from what do we owe not only the students that will go through it, the students 20, 30, 40, 50 years from then, I think you owe them a similar experience, and I think you owe them the ability to express themselves in a way that they need to express themselves. So as they're finding their identity in middle school for me, age 10 to 14 and grade 5 to 8, it might not be on athletic fields. It might be in whatever an auditorium can offer. So those are some things I think we as a community need to think about. I'm sure I'm not making friends on the building committee, but I am speaking as a person who's been. I don't know, she raised her hand first.
Well, my understanding too is the auditorium you build in the community
Yes.
could also be charged those people to potentially make money back.
Yes, we have an ability where we offer that through, and there's 3 different categories of how you can rent the space. Yeah.
A friend of mine is moved from Whitman to Hampton, and her daughter is in fifth grade, well, in the middle of this past year. And her daughter was really struggling here. And when she moved to Hampton, her grades went up. She became less depressed, more of a social butterfly. She was around other kids and had different experiences. And I think if you look at kids who have those experiences, you'll see that there is a marked difference in what fifth graders, in reference to older kids who are role models, as opposed to being big that you will belong.
And I would say the transition to middle school is harder on the parents no matter what grade. It is, but giving up our little kids and you get a schedule that says 8 a.m. The heck is that? You know, and then you're gonna get deodorant phys ed. So that's much harder on a parent anyway, but having more experiences at an earlier age in the case of 5th grade is beneficial. I just don't want people.
Just want to say that there are some people that will be very welcome, your comments, your insight, professional expertise.
I appreciate that.
Your voice as a community member who's invested himself in the community, both professionally and, coaching teams and all that kind of stuff. So, yes, there are some that will.
Appreciate that.
One other thing about middle school as a 6th grade is, as a lot of these people are PTO parents, you're in and you're out because it's 3 years is so fast, you don't even know, you haven't gotten the rhythm yet. And if we haven't gotten the rhythm as parents, I can't imagine the kids are really getting it. But having like an extra year to build that community, I think is just beneficial for everybody.
I agree. And you make those connections, you make more connections with adults that you can identify and be comfortable with for an extra year. Because think about it. Good, bad, or different. You have 2 phys ed teachers here. You have a city teacher restored. You have all these teachers here. And you get to see them for 4 years. So there's no one that's going to know your students better when you have questions and when you're not. Because they see them in the natural environment, which is unstructured lunch, hallway, and they see them in the academic environment. And that's sometimes what's most important in the middle school, is that we make these little social beings, take them through all their lumps, and now produce young adults who are hopefully at least critical thinkers to attack what the high school brings. Yeah.
Middle school is literally a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for our kids, and now is not the time to cheap out. We're so lucky, like you said, to be able to do this right now. We're not going to get this chance again. We cannot cheap out and not go big.
One last comment. I think if we took a poll here, I think 98% of us are on the same page that we want the same thing. I think the difficulty we face is getting everybody that doesn't take the time to come in to get that message to everybody else to come and vote that. So the lady that was speaking very forthcomingly in the back, maybe next year we'll go out there with soapboxes and a loudspeaker and make sure we get everybody to vote for it.
I don't disagree. We don't know.
Can I ask you a question, like, it's big, I suppose it's going in. So we've had a ton of condos and everything built. Has been projected for the exclusion in the amount of students coming in, that's kind of the issue I found in space, which is greater anyway. So the new building, I would
to be honest, we use what's called NESDEC, the New England School Development Educational Council, and they always put forth along the East Coast, put out the population trends. So we've gone with them. We are higher if we get a fifth grade. There is extra room to take on not only the fifth grade, but students. What happens in the Whitman-Hanson or the Whitman region, if you're building condos, that's set at, if it's a one-bedroom, if it's a two-bedroom, it's one child. If it's a three-bedroom, it's two children. What sometimes happens in reality is that there's more. You put bunk beds and there's more. So from the standpoint of the MSBA, that is not. You also have to then phase in, we have an exploding EL English learner population that's taking place right now. So those things are there. So there is a factor that's built in, but depending on what takes in, that factor is built on research. But we have to make sure that we try to take what we know and do what's best from there.
If I can just add, if we go with a 5-grade MSBA as capital at 675, based on trends that we've done a study, both MSBA, and I didn't believe their numbers, so we contracted NESDEC to do it, and they're very light numbers based upon everything that's been built in town and the capacity to not build anymore. So that's where you are in Whitman right now. We've built out, according to retired building, we've built out. So that's what we're looking at. And based on birth rate, people aren't having 4 kids anymore, they're having 1 or 2. So that's, and they set our number. So that's the 5-grade configuration is where we're at. That's a certain number that we built us.
I just want to kind of piggyback on the gentleman's comments. That is a challenge, right? Sometimes we commit to these committees or whatever, and then as time goes on, things fizzle out a little bit, right, in terms of interest and turnout. I think we have, I'd say, more than double of the amount of people we had last forum. Am I correct in saying that? I'm wondering about if it hasn't been done already. What about this group alone, sharing emails, starting something? Maybe all of us could commit to bringing at least one more person to the next forum in December, or things like that. That we can try to generate interest in what we are trying to accomplish. I think it's important for us to keep the momentum going and be creative and innovative in how we do that.
I know that we have some of those established networks that can all be deals with copy that, but now, the best back to high school. They're involved in this, with us at the elementary level. But we have those networks, we are starting to, that our communication with our families, particularly the younger families, and communicating with our families, are really starting to get involved as well. Really things that we can do in school beyond the 15-year timeline. But, there was plans internally.
Could we take some of this into like the ball fields and things like that? I mean, I certainly volunteer to participate. So I'm just kind of spitballing, but I think I just want to take advantage of the opportunity to speak to this group and have us all kind of collaborate while we're here.
So something I did with the weekend was I had suppliers and went to the car and tried to make conversation with people about meeting and also time. A lot of people don't really understand the importance of these meetings, but if more of us could mobilize in that way, get the word out, I think that it would do a lot more. Maybe they're able to have conversation with us and understand why it's so important that everybody as a community, not just parents, is involved in conversations.
I agree 1,000%. That's why I talked a little bit about this community building too, because that's when we can help forward. You're going to house kids from 7:30 to 2:15, but then it becomes part of your community for athletics, for drama, for a town meeting in 15 or 20 years. You never know. And that's what we've identified as, there's no community kids. And I agree, I would love to fight with MSBA, said everything should be reimbursable for the programs that we want to offer our children. Music, drama. And it's just not. And we're trying to figure how this, because music and art and drama just aren't an extracurricular. We want to incorporate it into the program. So we might be going back and forth. That's why Jordan said there's a lot of gray. I know it's not going to be fully reimbursable, but if we can get a little bit of that. But that's a decision that the building committee's going to have to make, the school committee's going to have to make, and then the taxpayers are going to have to make. And that's what you folks have to identify as who you are as a community. Because I think you know where Assistant Superintendent Farrow stands on the middle school. live here. There's no better person in this district to speak on behalf of being a leader of children at this age group than George. And that's why we wrote an ed plan for both. This is where we steer a little bit because, as he said, he hired us to do that for our children. We have to look at the economic piece of it. The auditorium, we've been a proponent since day one, but that's kind of out of our wheelhouse a little bit because I'm not paying for that. And there's nothing I can do from the state to say they're going to ease that pain a little bit. So I think that's a piece as we vet this out, when we get something to uniform, we have another one in December, we have one in January as well.
Hasn't been determined right now.
But if you can get some folks here, and I would like to hear some folks that, you know, who might oppose it too, in the lots. So we can give a different perspective. And this is we'll tell you all day long.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm supposedly the devil's advocate on this committee. I was on the finance committee for a while. Even at the cheapest building, it's a ton of money. Okay, they talk about $50 million for the town. It's the taxpayers. Okay, so I want all of this to happen. I wouldn't be on this committee if I didn't want to build this. But I want a reality that's what, maybe 75 people in here. There's 9,000 registered voters in Whitman. Okay, at town meeting, it'll probably pass. But it's that registered vote, it's when they vote on it, the debt exclusion, that we have to really work hard. The cheapest one would be about 15% increase to your property tax. For me, that's about $1,100, $1,200 on my property tax. I pay about $8,000 I have a bigger house, I have 4 kids that are all grown and 5 bedrooms. I pay about $8,000. I'm going to pay another $1,200, $1,300 just for the small one. Okay, so that's going to be what we're up against. Okay, we're up against when the people go to the ballot and they see that my property tax is going to go up 17% if we build a 528 with an auditorium. No, because they're not educated. So that's why I think what this is saying there is that, you know, we're 80 votes in here. There's 9,000 out there, and we have to get more than that, whoever shows up. So.
And it really does matter how we are thinking as a community. Because if we're thinking 17% equals no, then we're missing a huge opportunity to stop being the town and the district that lands down here when we compare what's happening with educational facilities in the state. We decided that our students deserve all-day kindergarten. That shouldn't be miraculous, but it sure as hell was, right? Like, I can't even believe that that was such a difficult hurdle, but I think it's just like the turning of the dial a little bit to start thinking about my child who's in this district will never even come close to stepping foot in this building as a student, but I care about the other people in the community. And so I think we need to broaden the conversation and be creative about how we broaden the conversation to be not just 5 through 8 or 6 through 8, not just auditorium, no auditorium. Who do we want to be? Do we ever want to be innovative? Do we ever want to be creative? Or do we just want to like skate by with the family? And I know like everybody in this room is probably on the same page as me, so I'm just blah, blah, blah. But there has to be a way to get this to be a larger conversation. And if it's dragging marketing for yourself, if it's dragging your friends to the meetings, like I dragged my neighbors to polls to vote in the elections, it's like, I don't know, I guess desperate times, desperate measures, but there has to be a way to get more than, you know, I pulled into the parking lot and I was like, please, we have a hard time parking. Please let there be a lot of cars in the parking lot. And it was like, all right, this was reasonable.
This is being recorded too, so this is on. So you can tell people, they don't even have to look at the slides, they can watch the videos. And this is a great conversation piece of this expression.
To your point, I mean, you have to have a vision, right? Anything worth pursuing, you have to have a vision. And if our vision is people are never going to pay for it, that's not a vision, right? We got to figure out a way to formulate the vision and appeal to people about the benefits of what we're trying to do.
And we just want to emphasize as architects too, that we can do a lot to facilitate the grade level cultural change. We can, and it's all based on the organization of the building, so we can sort of place fifth grade somewhere that's distant from eighth grade. We can sort of facilitate any of those major changes. And it's great, the feedback we're getting tonight, and we'll certainly work that into the options as we continue to develop them. And we have a series of slides that it's a lot of what you're saying. It's STEAM spaces for fifth graders. It's academic neighborhood spaces to collaborate. These full-size athletic facilities. The ability to go outside and learn. And this broader social emotional network that they're developing over the 4 years. So we definitely hear what everyone's saying. And we heard if we could take a poll, we could know the answers. We can take a poll. We actually have it here tonight. So we're using Mentimeter, and we've developed a few questions. So Crystal's going to pass out some papers where it has this information for anybody that can't see the board. We also have a QR code that you can scan with your phone to answer some poll questions. Otherwise, it might take a little bit of time if anyone wants to just simply take a picture of it. You can answer them in your own time after the meeting. But ultimately, www.menti.com, MENTI.com, and you can enter code 87578412. This is a poll that will be open until November 21st, so that's 2 weeks from tonight. And it's sort of the first of many polls. Anyone who was here at the previous session will note that the poll questions are the same. And that's because we're just sort of, it's like the primary election, now we're taking, next time it'll be sort of the real election, we're just trying to continue to gather some information. And so those questions, the poll questions, we're really looking for a lot of what was just discussed. For the physical building, what would be an advantage adding the fifth graders? What would be a concern? In terms of their socialization, again, what would be an advantage? What would be a concern? And then really just selecting grade 5 grade or grade 6 grade, what's your preference? So that's the poll. We've passed around some pages with that information, but in your own time, we have 2 weeks. If you'd like to submit your response, it would be completely anonymous. So we'll look forward to gaining that information, and we'll certainly take it into consideration and share it with the building committee as we get as many responses as possible. If there's anyone who wasn't here tonight and you want to share this information, again, the poll will be available open for 2 weeks. So we'd love to get any of that feedback as well. I think Principal Frost is going to circulate something to all of the Whitman Middle School and I guess the broader district, the same information. So.
I'll put it up on social media too, and on Twitter. I think folks can get access to Whitman Pride. Sometimes they don't put what I want on. So just throw that out there, because I do want people to respond. I think this is important for our community. And if we're going somewhere totally different, we need to strategize and rethink what we're doing as a presentation. But if you can get it on Pride, that would be great.
The more input, the better. Sure. We also have a second poll. We're not going to go through these in great detail, but it's the conversation that we just had as well on auditorium, cafetorium, with cafetorium versus auditorium. What we show here are the sizes based on the program for each, and the options that you guys just saw. You can see that the grade configuration versus the dining area or the auditorium area. Stage size is the same, and the number of seats or capacity is also different based on the scale of the space or the number of seats within the auditorium, whether it's 5/8 or 6/8. And this is where we are in this space. This is an example of a charter school that we did in Rhode Island. This is cafetorium, another cafetorium in an elementary school we did in Hingham. Quincy, Mass, Southwest Middle School, some of you toured that school at the beginning of the project. An auditorium, 280 seat auditorium there. 500 seat auditorium at Kennedy Middle School in Dayton. And this is a gymatorium. a private school that we constructed in Newton, Jackson Walnut Park. And there's been some questions related to what, as far as technology, as far as on the stage, what differences there may be. Without getting into the details or the nuts and bolts of the details of the line sets or the stage lighting, rigging, sound system, AV, both high school and middle school auditorium stages and line sets, overall development are state-of-the-art. So if we talk about a state-of-the-art middle school auditorium, it's all state-of-the-art, high school, middle school. However, the number of stage pipe bags, light pipes, whether it's stage curtains, the circuits for the lighting fixtures, the power for the spotlights, etc., it's slightly less for the middle school than it is, as an example, your regional high school. So when we talk about that, we are going to say it's state-of-the-art because it is, but it's a different level of state-of-the-art as far as the overall information is provided. Considerations when thinking about auditorium, cafetorium, gymatorium. Does it include a stage? Yes. Accommodate enrollment. Not all of them do. The auditorium does. The up to 67%, and that's an MSBA threshold. The available throughout the day. Yes, in an auditorium. No, in some of the others. Fixed seating, you can see, allows for flexibility. The lighting performances, proper acoustics for performances, as well as community use. We talked about that. MSBA funding as well, and then provides income opportunity. You can see the matrix there. So we also have another mentor here.
That's right, continuation of the same goal. So you'll see question number 6 is, should Whitman invest in an auditorium, include only the baseline cafeteria or the partially reimbursed gymatorium in the project? And so you can select your preference. Maybe you have no preference or you're unsure at this time, but hopefully throughout the process you'll have a better idea of what would be best for the district. So again, poll closes in 2 weeks, November 21st, and that circulated the printout that we have. If you want to take a picture of it, answer it in your own time, this is part of that poll.
And just because of the earlier question about the gym and reimbursement, and the partial reimbursement for the gymatorium, the reason why it's partial is because of the size and not knowing exactly what size the project will include and whether it is or is not completely 100% reimbursed. So that's the reason why it's partial.
Question about the process. When is the middle school building committee going to vote on the project to present the town meeting and vote on it?
Were you looking at my side?
Great question.
So here's a timeline of votes, a timeline of presentations. We are right here, Community Forum 2. Next month, there will be a school committee meeting and school building committee meeting to discuss exactly this, enrollment options, auditorium, no auditorium. There won't be a vote at that meeting. There will be a discussion. And then the intention is in January, the building committee meeting, school committee for the determination of 5-8 versus 6-8, and then school building committee meeting for the auditorium, no auditorium, for the votes in January. That allows us as a professional team to develop the documents for estimating in anticipation of the next submission, which is the 1st of March.
Dates up there or just a month?
Just a month, yeah.
Those dates will be published somewhere?
I can tell you, school committee doesn't send us.
So, yeah, if that is going back to the men's meeting, just want to make sure everybody has that information on the auditorium and cafeteria question.
One follow-up comment as a Whitman homeowner and who pays taxes. I just wanted to sort of mention to all of you that we have a Whitman Regional High School. It was built in the early 2000s. Students enrolled in 2005, and that was 20 years in. So we're all paying taxes for the new high school from 2005 to 2025. There's 3 years left on that debt. So we 27? Okay. Thank you for clarifying. So 4 years left on that debt. So as a homeowner, if you have a car loan, a 4-year car loan, you know you're thinking, okay, that payment's going to be up, right? I'll have some available funds. As a community, as a resident here, I would want to continue to invest in our schools. We have a high school. A sound fiscal plan for a community is to continue to invest. Having debt in a community is okay. You have debt at home, your boiler bill, your furnace, your refrigerator. I have Jordan's furniture and I'm paying for furniture. It's not that we live in a debt society, but it's necessary to provide for our community.
To your point, that means that there'll actually be, there would be savings. So the 17% that you were referring to isn't quite as high eventually.
The problem is right now, our payment each year for the high school is about $475,000. Our payment year one will be about $40 million.
But it was higher for the high school to begin with. It's like a debt.
Yes, it will step down.
Trending down.
Yeah, it will step down. So, but as it goes down through, it will, each year it gets less and less and less.
But the number isn't as large as we first thought of high school beginning savings. It's not like high school.
The town will save $475,000 in fiscal '27, and probably about the same time, when we start paying for this, when we figure maybe 2028 maybe, it's $4 million.
I understand that.
It's
It's not quite as.
I'm just saying, so, to say that so the next year after that is like $4.5 million, and finally it gets under $3 million. So the problem is that you gotta get people out there to realize that, that this is expensive. The numbers are huge. And like we said, are we gonna invest in this town or not? My kids are all, my youngest is 22. So I'm not in here. I'm not in here. I'm
just curious, I'm trying to get a sense of where people are. I have kids in the district, so I want to vote for it, but not just because I have kids in the district. There's more kids coming. Your kids might have grandkids.
We need to get the train home. We have a year to do it. Okay, it's a lot of money. When it gets out there, the numbers get out there, people are going to go, no way. But we have to convince them why it's working. Okay, that's all.
I swore I wasn't going to say anything, but the most important thing in my mind is we get a new school. We desperately need a new school. The other things, we can figure out what's going to be they will all may have differences, different opinions, but we'll figure that part out. The most important thing is to be able to get a new school. That to me is the underlying. This place.
Right, but if we get a new school that isn't sustainable, then we waste that money, essentially.
Well, if you wanted it would be a sustainable 21st century building, as I sat and spoke with George today, I said, 5 through 8, we were discussing it. I am not 100% convinced that that's the way to go. Now, as I said to him, I like to think I have an open mind. Right? Matter of fact, I got home this afternoon, I called the niece up, or great niece actually, okay, who just graduated school, education major, okay, very good college in New York, and we had spoken a couple of weeks ago. Tell me, what did you find? Geez, I asked a couple of people, can you get on it a little bit more for me? What are the benefits? What are the detriments? I want to know. someone who's what's going to be best for our kids. And I want to try and have an open mind that that's what my vote's going to reflect. That's where I'm at.
Right behind you, Derek, first. Yeah.
Just with like touching base on everything, I am a homeowner and I have kids who will be utilizing it. I know as a lot of things, I'm newer to Whitman, so I'm newer to coming to a lot of these meetings. I know we had to fight pretty hard for a new playground for our kids. We had to fight for the full-day kindergarten. And I know this is all about wanting a new school, and I want the new school and everything, but it's the outside people that we have to do this, the ones that aren't using the middle school, whatnot. Is there any way to put in, like, you were saying, it's gonna have a beautiful walking path, it's going to, you know, the outside structure of the school? Is there any way to, like, present that to other people? Because I know now that Duval has a new playground, and I've been there, I'm seeing people from all over the place using it. I know when I go walk my dog around Whitman Town Park, there's never less than 40 people there. I know when I go to the playground, there's, like, all different people, not just using the school. And those are the people I feel like that are going to be looking more at the money and not what we're seeing. Is there any way to like reach those people, show them this could be strolling around the school, this is what it's going to look like, this is what it's like, other benefits?
We need to learn how to market it. Because
Yeah.
honestly, right now, I go to Abington.
Yeah,
I go watch
like-
concerts up at the Abington High School, I use the track up at the Abington High School, we go down to the junior, I mean, I leave Whitman to go use the other.
You should know that that's why we hire these people,
Yeah.
because they're gonna help us do that.
Yeah, that's like,
But we have to make a final decision first,
yep.
and, you know, but we wanted your input, and then once we have the final decision, then we can get into like going to the senior centers and everything, and talking about, I'm fixed income, I taught here for, I don't know, what I was.
You're a long time, yeah.
And my baby is standing up over there, and he has 2 children who will be coming here. So, you know, it's very important to me as an home educator that, and on building committee, on school committee, that we get around to everybody. What the decision needs to be made first, then we vote. And that's when we talk about the outdoor things that can be done in that book and the other things that you've got a glimpse of, that I've gone to a couple of schools that were on a tour, and what was done was fabulous. And if we could get that here, it's only a great thing for the kids and for the public. And for the public.
And we don't want to skip, we're going to be spending.
If you're gonna spend it, spend it. Do it once, because you don't wanna come back in 5 years, and now all of a sudden we have pre-K coming. Where are we gonna put it?
Well, maybe that's our homework here. Maybe all of us take that to the most argumentative person you've ever seen.
Derek, what do you got?
I'm just gonna say, my kids will probably be the first ones to step through the doors of the building, right, flag here. And my personal opinion is simply, in a nutshell, yes, 5 through 8, yes, auditorium, yes, the top option, do it right this first time, right? And I think one of the things you gotta look at is, it's a community building second, and the community's gonna benefit so much from the space. The auditorium alone, I think, is a must. You look at town hall, it's decrepit. That's gonna be 10 years from now, probably. This could help stay that, or delay that, or help us build a smaller town hall, and have savings down the line when inflation has gone on again. Having the 5th grades come up, in my opinion, takes the burden off of already an older Wall and Common school that's has burdens. It's a benefit now to help us in the future do it right. So I think when we get to the marketing part of it, to the community, yes, it's a school, yes, it's for the kids. It's so much more for the community as well. And I think that's something that needs to be brought up. That's just my 2 cents.
Pretty good? So, December 5th is the next committee forum, right before the school committee meeting on the 7th, will be a busy week. If you all have the school committee, that would be great too. I'd like to see faces, other than just other folks in the gallery. I think you heard where we kind of are. I mean, I want us to be, I have to show the community we're fiscally responsible. On my other side, I just heard what Derek said, I want to do it right. And the difficult pieces for the next 50 years. You know, what can we offer our children? What do we owe our children? What do What do we owe our children? And that's a decision that we'll be making over the next couple months. Next October, we would be looking at town meeting to get it on the ballot for the following May with, if this went all well, opening up in September of 2026. So if you have kids, that's what we would be looking at, if all went well, September of 2026 for that project. If it would be a rental or something, I look at the 3 or 36 month of bill. And sometimes these guys get things done a little earlier, depends on what's available. The other piece here, and I can dig into it deep, but they gave you the high cost because this is the cost of building right now. If that shifts in 2 years, it might not be as expensive. People are struggling out because the cost went up, but when Colliers presented, they did Cape, the regional tech down the Cape, that came in under budget because it was right around COVID when all the costs dropped tremendously. So we're hitting a cost now, which is expensive, and they're doing their due diligence to provide that, but hopefully that will shift when we start to build. That's what I am.
Remember, 2 people will be next meeting.
So thank you for coming out. We'll see you if you have questions. You know, myself.